What is up, guys? You're tuning into this Okiru podcast. I'm your co-host, Jasper, and we thank you so much for spending this time with us. We hope you enjoy this episode. Make sure to follow us on our socials at okiru.apparel on Instagram, Okiru on Facebook, Okiru on YouTube, and also Okiru on major platforms such as Spotify and Apple Music. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. We hope you enjoy.
Okiru.
You know, you wanted us to talk about your experiences in your silent meditation. What was that like, man?
In summary, I feel like I have recharged my batteries, which is an obvious thing, right? But I have added new batteries on, and I've installed a solar receiver for me to re-energize myself sustainably as well. That's what it feels like after the 10 days meditation course.
What was the first day like? Like, before that, what was your expectations before, and then was it like what you expected it to be?
And what is it actually?
Yeah, what is it like? What is it actually like?
Look, I found this practice, and I've been aware of it for over 10 years now, right? But it just hadn't been the right time for me to do that. Yeah. And then over the years, people just keep mentioning, hey, you must try this, you must try this. And one example was sitting at Flinders Street Station at 6 p.m. and a lady just sitting next to me waiting for the train. We just had a chat and she started telling me about this Vipassana meditation. And you don't normally speak to people and strangers on the train with you, right? But the people of this community are just so open, and the practice gives people so much that they're wanting to share and spread the word that this is a thing.
Wow. It does sound amazing, right? Yeah.
Is it like a time period during the year, or is it something they do like constantly?
There is monthly courses all around Australia as well. So the one I went to is in Healesville, so it's like an hour and a half out of Melbourne. And I booked a couple of months ago. I was on the wait list for a bit, and look, I had no expectations going in, right? Yeah. All I knew was I was committed to staying the full 10 days, because it's hard to sit and deal with your thoughts for say an hour already, right? But to sit down for 10 hours a day, cross-legged or whatever comfortable position you are on the floor on some cushions, it's observing your mind, and it's allowing your mind to just come at you and to be naturally. And what you're taught is to let go and of impermanence, which is that life is ever changing, whether it's good or bad as well. So just, people say meditation is like observing the clouds, letting it pass, not holding on to attachments, and just letting it pass through. So I've been meditating for a couple of years now, but on and off and casually, and I might set a timer for 15-20 minutes or something like that. Or if I'm out in nature, I might just sit there open-eyed, observing and breathing. But for some reason, I feel like I've only recently just learnt how to meditate through this course.
Wow.
Wow.
So it's really eye-opening, this one.
Very, very eye-opening. Yeah, and the silence is the easy bit, right? It sounds a bit funny, but the silence is there so that you are within yourself and you're not sharing energy with others, because you're there to do hard work, right? I didn't expect it to be that hard, but look, it was challenging, and there's no way around it. Sitting for 10 hours a day, cross-legged, not speaking to anybody that you're sharing space with for 10 days, and you go in the kitchen, pretend this is the food, the buffet, or where you're getting your cereal and your oats and things in the morning. You're all lining up, but you have to be conscious of other people, and you just silently dodge and weave people as you're in the kitchen and you're eating, and you're not allowed to share eye contact, because eye contact is communication.
Oh, wow.
Think about it.
Right.
And so if we're here and we're meditating, and at the end of the day, I'd be like, hey, Gerald, how'd you go? And you'd be like, oh yeah, I felt this and this and this. And then I'm like, oh, but I didn't feel that. And then my mind starts going in a spiral, and I start attaching myself to his experience, and I set expectations for myself, which I might not achieve because you are you and I am me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So the silence is part of the whole experience for you to hold and cradle yourself.
Yeah.
Wow. When I was thinking silence, I thought it was just like, verbal type of thing, but it's actually like all types of different like communications from physical and everything. Wow.
No gestures, no gestures at all. And I'm with like 18 other blokes and 16, 17 other women, right? Men and women are segregated. And it makes sense, right? Otherwise the mind starts wandering. And so there are moments where you do accidentally hold eye contact with people, and given you spent, say, 5 days and you look someone in the eye, it's just like, whoa, like you're staring into their soul for a bit, but it's that communication. It's so visceral that it kind of hits you deep. And then you start analyzing it. You think, why did they look at me that way? Did I do something? And all that as well. So how the teacher describes it is it's a surgical operation of the mind. So it's very intense, right? But having said that intensity, I felt super safe the moment I arrived. As you can imagine, you'd be nervous going into it, and you're not sure how your mind would react. Before going in, I was like, all right, I'm just going to lose my marbles. My mind will be scattered on the floor, and then I'll learn to pick it back up.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like that at all. It was sitting allowed me to observe my mind with balance and non-judgment. So the word that they're using is equanimity, equanimous. So that is, like I said, balance and neutrality. So for 3 hours a day from day 5 onwards, there is a group sitting of strong determination.
Strong determined. Yeah, what is that?
So you're cross-legged, you can't, or whatever position you're comfortable in, hold it for a full hour.
Holy.
So you can't move your legs, can't move your hands, can't open and shut your eyes,
Oh my
can't move your
God.
eyes. And so what you observe and what you feel is very painful sensations for me in my knees and in my lower back. And the mind just keeps wandering, right? And what they say is, okay, we all feel sensations, we all feel pain, but if your mind fixates on the pain itself, you're doubling the pain, you're multiplying the pain.
Yeah.
And so the practice allows you to experience the teachings of the Buddha, which is not religious, but it's about morality. It's about controlling your mind and freeing your mind of suffering, right? Through observation of the body and the sensations that we all feel every day. So at one point, and that was at the start, it was at day 4, we just learned this new technique. And sit, don't move your body. And there was an itch in my nose. I'm like, cool, all right, a sensation, let's observe it. And then it was itchy. And I'm like, I want to scratch it. All right. And then your mind just like fixates on it. And then I was like, I want to scratch it. And then my knees started hurting, and I'm like, my back started hurting. And I was torturing myself, essentially, because I was determined to not move. But at the same time, I was, binding myself and not letting myself go. So that's the opposite of neutrality, right? It's like, this is so itchy, and then like I could just feel the most pain that I've ever felt because I was multiplying this itch. I was multiplying the knee stress. I was multiplying that back pain, multiplying. And there is a chant where he says, when the session ends, anicca, which means impermanence. Things are changing all the time. Things are changing. And I got out of that just so highly strung up, like so much tension in the mind that I got out. And I was like, what did I just experience? Right? Like, holy shit. And you can't react with others. So when you do open your eyes to change positions, or you learn to not open your eyes, but when you do open your eyes at the start, you see everybody is sitting straight, they're sitting still, and you're like, huh? I'm suffering all this pain. Why aren't they suffering? But they are. They are at the same time. So for me, it was just such a rich experience that it's mind training, it's discipline, it's focus, concentration, and it teaches you how to deal with pain, that it is temporary as well. So it doesn't just teach you, it allows you to experience it, which is the most powerful teacher.
That doesn't sound crazy.
I'm just the way you speak about it. It's just so visual, and it's like I can imagine myself being in that position, but you can't really fully experience it unless you're there. And I'm just like thinking,
having that time pass and having those,
right?
like even just thinking about my head's itchy right now. I don't want to scratch it, just like I want to scratch right now. So I just imagine like that long period of time, just having it would have been the biggest battle of the mind, right? Like it's insane, it's crazy.
Well, it's like you're right. What you focus on, that's what happens to you, right? If you focus on the negativity, the pain that's happening, the more it'll just snowball and then just continue to be there, as opposed to experiencing it and feeling it and then,
being neutral, taking a step back and just observing it. So by the end of it, you look at your pain, you're like, and you feel it. You feel the pain, you look at it and you're like, okay, this is what I'm feeling. And then you can sit through the hour. It's still painful. It's still not easy after 10 days, but you get used to it, and I guess the line where you want to move gets pushed back each and each time. So rather than you torturing yourself at 30 minutes, it might be you're torturing yourself at 50 minutes or 55. So it gets a bit easier over time, but still it's not easy to do. And that's why I think everybody should try it, but there is a time for you. So I guess this is a way of, hey, planting the seed that this opportunity is available out there in the world as well. And it will be very beneficial if you're interested in meditation, if you're interested in performance and pushing yourself to achieve whatever you want to achieve.
Normally when you think of like wanting to push yourself, you don't think of meditation, right? But like this is like bringing your mental game to another level, which will, if you were like into sports or something like that, it can bring you to that next level too, right?
Well, your mental is part of your performance, right? It's part of your body. Like we're always fixated on the physical aspect. Like say if you're an athlete, you're gonna focus on training more and becoming physically stronger, doing these movements. But if you don't incorporate your mind and train your mind to in ways to become stronger, to push through the pain, like it's just gonna regress, right?
Just look at Nick Kyrgios, right? We all know he's a super talented player, but his mindset, firstly, he doesn't have a coach, so there's an ego there. He doesn't have a coach. So there is an ego element where he's not coachable, he's not willing to learn from others. But as you know, even the best performing athletes all have coaches.
Mentors, people to help them.
And so game after game or Grand Slam after Grand Slam, you see him spit the dummy. You see him yell at the umpires or the crowd and smashing his racket. Right? And there's other examples like Ben Simmons. I don't follow basketball, but he's super talented, right?
Super talented player, but like it just seems like a sook. Like, come on, man. You can. I don't want to compare basketball players, but in this case, like Kobe Bryant, man, you see him. He's playing through injuries, even in just the regular season. And Ben Simmons' team, Brooklyn Nets, they get into the playoffs. That's an opportunity to shine. It's like, what are you doing, man? Like, do you have no passion for what you're doing? It's that lack of passion, just the willingness to suffer for the thing that you're in. That do you really love it? You know, and it sucks, man. But
Kobe Bryant meditates. He did. Yeah.
see, that's the difference, right? Like,
Yeah, that's
you know,
different. That's the mindset.
the mindset,
State
mind state.
of it all as well. So it's super powerful. I was speaking to some mates yesterday and they're like, all right, I've just got off nicotine and got off vaping and it's really hard. What I miss is smoking. And for me, how I relate this back is when you're smoking, you're consciously taking in breaths. You're lighting, it's a ritual. You light a cigarette. It's consciously breathing. And that's where the sense of meditation and mindfulness comes from. It's you're stressed, you go take a cigarette, you feel much better.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the case for a lot of people. But the contents of the cigarette or the chemicals would be doing the opposite. It would probably be amping you up. There's a science behind it. But how and why they feel less stress is because of the conscious breathing that they're doing as well. So with the cigarette, they're meditating in a sense.
True. That's so true.
So they're just doing it mindfully. So I think there is a correlation between, hey, if you, and I'll be keen to see it, there's probably studies on it as well. Give up cigarette through meditation, and I think meditation can just do so much for you as well.
I guess that's why they have like those replacement. It's not really a cigarette, but it's like electronic thing that just getting that habit because they're picking up a cigarette and doing that every morning. It's the habit. They form that habit, but replacing it with something else and just like putting it in your mouth, even though it's not a cigarette or something, and just going like that and doing the breathing stuff.
Yeah.
That's how like they kind of try to wane off the cigarettes as well. So yeah, I was gonna ask, like, during that time that you're there, do you stay overnight and stuff like that, or do you?
Yeah. There's accommodation for and capacity for 50 people there as well. When I arrived, it's like 3 times they're like, "Are you committed to staying for the full 10 days?" And you're like, "Yes." On the form, "Are you committed to staying for the full 10 days?" "Yes." And then at the end, when you're giving your form and you're completing the registration, the man asks you, "Are you committed to staying for the full 10 days? And I say, "Yes." And then, all right, I hand over my phone, my keys, and my wallet. And I don't see that for the next 10 days.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a process. They keep you there. But I guess if you fight through it, you will it's like climbing a mountain for your mind.
Yeah.
And for many, many people, and for me, for everybody, it's a rare opportunity because you speak so much each day, you don't realize it. And as you saw through COVID and self-isolation, right?
Yeah.
People suffered because they had no human interaction. So it was putting yourself in that, but intensified and amplified. However, in Healesville, the property is beautiful. It's like 18 acres. It's on a hill. It's overlooking the Yarra Ranges as well. There's beautiful bird life. And so during our breaks, you could walk up and down. There's trails there. There's like a tea tree forest and eucalypt forest as well. And so given that you have no books, no writing materials, no stimulation, except for you and your mind and your surroundings, which is purpose-built. It is clearly designed to be conducive for meditation as well.
Wow, so you couldn't even read or write or anything? Wow, oh my gosh. The more you say, it's like it gets more and more intense to like, wow.
And the reason for that is through life at the moment, our judging mind and our reacting mind is super trained through society because our mind helps us to protect ourselves. It helps us to judge others, and if we can trust them, then it's okay. Then we can let our guard down. Our guard is probably our reacting mind. Hey, think about it.
Yes.
And so what we're trained to do is reduce the power of our reactive mind and train and give more power and substance to our observing mind. Just observing and just watching and not judging, which is which is always a hard thing to do.
Mm. Wow, my God. And I was gonna say, after like all those days coming out of it, did it feel very intense having to go back into communicating with other people, making the eye contact, and was it very an intense feeling, or how did it feel?
No, it wasn't intense in the way that you'd think you'd feel overwhelmed, right? But after, a bit of a spoiler here of the schedule, but after 10 days of no speaking, the last day you're allowed to communicate with your fellow meditators. And by then, you're guided through a journey, an incredible journey, and the teacher gives very wise discourses as well. It's taught in a video format from the original teacher who brought this practice back from India. So it was originated in India, went all around the world. It got lost in India because people tried to edit it and all that, but the purity remained in Burma. So a man from Burma brought it over to India, and from there it just spread like wildfire throughout the world. And so when we could speak again, it was just full of love, full of compassion, sharing each other's journeys, super open-hearted, open-minded, and no judgment at all, because we'd all suffered through the same experience. So it was beautiful to really interact with people on a deeper level right away, right? Going back to real life, I was lucky enough to stay with an old university professor of mine. So he was just down the road, 10 minutes away, in a beautiful house with many, many rooms in Healesville as well. So he's like, stay however long you want and all that. I cooked him dinner and all that. So it's just beautiful, right? I couldn't go back home, right? I just didn't really want to face the music just yet, like right after that, because you're so sensitive to stimulation at that point in time. Like I received my phone back. I'm like, I don't even want to use this. But and then for the next few days, it's like, I didn't respond to my messages or anything like that. Obviously, there was a build up because of Easter and there's a lot of things going on, right? But yeah, it was hard to. You can't fully let go of that because there are conveniences of the modern day world on your devices, like your GPS, your cameras, and the ability to connect through social media and all that. I can't give that up, right? It just makes life harder for me, which is not what I want to do with that right now. So, yeah, to answer your question, yes, it was a bit of both. A bit harder, but at the same time, you're given a tool to allow yourself to sit back and observe.
Wow.
When you explained that, like I felt a hit of like emotion or just energy for some reason. Just that when you're talking about how you all experienced that suffering and then you were all able to come together by the end and just have that deep connection and just talk about like everyone was just so loving and compassionate. It's just like, we need more of that in the world, right? Like that compassion and love. There's so much judgment. There's so much hate going on that you see, especially through the media. We see like every single day. And sometimes you wake up in the morning and that's the first thing you see, right? And you start your day like, oh my God, this is happening. These things are happening in this country. And it's just like, why are you starting your day like that? Yeah. And then what conversations do you have? You conversate about the news, what's going on, all the terrible things that are going on. What about the good things, man? Like, what about the good thing that's happening in your life? Like, this experience you're sharing with us, like, that's amazing that we get to hear it, and you want to share it with us and everyone listening. That's amazing.
It is.
And it's good to hear these amazing stories that people are sharing. Like, last week, we were just playing basketball, and these two guys just came up to us. We just played ball, and at the end, they're like, "Oh, we just had a discussion." And this guy was sharing his story, like, "Man, like I was in this position where I was doing all these terrible things, and then now I'm here, like finding God." And it's just good to hear that journey from that paradigm shift in their mind. Like they went from this person who was doing all this explicit and I would say like bad things in terms of like, religiously, and then he's gone and found God, and he wanted to, you know, commit suicide. It's just like, wow, how do you change that? And it's just amazing to hear those stories when people have these experiences and their life turns around. Like that's what I want to hear, man. I want to hear about like your journey. Like I want to discuss like all the good times, you know, type of thing. And it's like, why can't we talk more about that?
Real people, real stories. All right. But when you turn on the tally, it's designed like that for a reason. News that gets you amped up and angry, that's how they get you to react, or that's how they control the story that they feed you. Right. So there's an election going on in Australia at the moment, and you can see it's ugly. It's super ugly, right? And more, there's just hate rhetoric that's been passed through the media. Like the Liberal government is using China as hey, they're evil. We're here to protect you from China. They're using that to win votes. Right? My mum was doing the washing this morning, and then I overheard her listening to something on YouTube, and there was an ad that says, hey, the Labor government can't do this, and China's overtaken this, and there's just hate everywhere, right? And people induce hate in you so that they can scare you, so that they can control how you vote and how you talk and react with people and things like that. Divide and conquer, essentially.
Politicians, yes, thing. I always notice from the very beginning, like how they don't talk so much about like the positivity they can do to like thing in the world. They just talk about how bad the other opposition is. I'm like, okay, but why do you want me to vote for you? Yeah.
That's politics, man.
No.
I know nothing about politics.
Yeah, me too. But I just see it.
I don't even know what's going on like with these elections. I try to keep away from the news, you know. Like if it's something important and I need to know, someone will tell me anyway.
It'll come to you.
You know,
It'll come to you.
Yeah, it'll come to me. Like we just focus on what we're doing, right? With our brand, talking to people who like want to build communities, like, you know, share stories. That's what we want to do, right?
And that's the beauty of it. You're focused on doing the goodness and what you are in control of as well. Look, politics is a thing, and people want to fight good fights and do whatever they want on their side. All respect to them, right? But I guess what we're doing here is just being in control of what we can control and putting our love and passion into our work, which is, you guys are sharing stories and creating beautiful apparel and clothing, right? That brings people joy because they can relate to your story and feel a part of the community that you're trying to get everybody to rise the hell up.
Yeah, that's it, man. We're gonna rise
Appreciate
up together,
that.
man. But yeah, you know, talking about that, like, Liz had this conversation with me the other day because talking about how she felt insignificant in the world because something happened in Malaysia where a guy was executed because he was caught drug dealing, and this guy has like mental illness, like he has mental disability, and she was like, everyone was like rallying together to try to stop it from happening because, man, like this guy was just trying to earn money for his father's surgery, and the only means he could do was to deal drugs. And then, you know, she was just like, man, I just felt like so insignificant that even though everyone was rallying together, we couldn't change anything. And it's like, you know, as much as we want to do these things to impact the world, sometimes the impact doesn't start with the external. It has to start with what we can do with ourselves first. And eventually those things, like, hopefully with what we're doing with ourselves, with our purpose in that search for meaning, hopefully we can create a small impact, you know? Because like everyone else who are much more powerful than us, even they don't create as much impact as we think. But like someone like Elon Musk, like, man, he's changing the world, you know? Like, but that guy is like absolutely crazy in the best way. Like he is doing with all his businesses, he's changing it for the better of the world, right? But you have to be a crazy person to do that. You have to have some sort of obsession.
He started somewhere.
Yeah.
Right? We all have an opportunity to start somewhere
Yeah.
each and every day.
Exactly.
So it's about making choices that really align with what your goals are and not appeasing people and the external, which is always hard to do because we have to fit into society in a sense as well. We can't live the life of an outlier all the time because you do need connection, and you can't be connection if you're trashing everybody's opinions every day. So obviously there's always a balance to it all. And the meditation course teaches you about going inside, about being comfortable with observing your pain, observing your suffering, but also observing the pleasures that you get as well. And they're warning you, hey, don't get addicted to the pleasures, because you do have, at a moment, I think it was day 7, where I feel like I really got into the swing of things. I picked up the technique and I was scanning my body and I could feel all the sensations in there. The sensations, when I first felt them, it felt like lights and bells and alarms and all that all across my body as well, because your body does send sensations everywhere for you to scratch that itch, for you to feel pain, for you to do anything. It's a reaction that you always do, but you're blindly doing it. You're not taking notice of it before you do it. So so at a point on day 7, I was just sitting there. I could feel my consciousness rise up. It felt out of body, and I could view myself sitting there. And it was just progressively getting further and further and further away. And I was like, whoa, what's going on here? I'm tripping balls. This is sick. But the goal is, hey, don't attach yourself to that experience. Otherwise, you'll always seek it in your meditation. And it's the opposite of what the practice is, which is equanimity, which is balance and neutrality and non-attachment. So there is pleasure and pleasurable experiences and sensations in the body as well. But again, aligning with the true teaching is to recognize that things come and go, good or bad, and to stay neutral in observation of it all. And that's the key to a better life.
That's beautiful, man.
Yeah, I think that's important, because you compare that. I don't know. I'm just probably just talking out of my ass right now, but it's those feelings of doing substance is so good, and you attach those feelings, and every time you do it, it's like you're expecting that feeling. But then, like, if you incorporate that ideology of like neutrality and that attachment, every experience is new, as opposed to like, this is the feeling last time, I'm going to expect to have this feeling again.
That attachment is always chasing that feeling.
Chasing that feeling, but like every day is renewed. Every day is something new, right? Like you got to go about every day as if it was a fresh start. Like just because this happened yesterday, it felt good, like I'm expecting it to happen again today, type of thing.
So a challenge for you boys is in Melbourne, you're always waiting in line for something. Right?
Yeah.
When you're waiting in line for a coffee or you're going into a restaurant, try not to pick up your phone. Recognize that, hey, your hand dips in your pocket, you touch your phone, and feel the sensation of why. Why am I reaching for my phone? Why can't I deal with the present world around me? And it's hard. Even I find it hard, and everybody would find it hard. That's why everyone's like, all right, order your coffee, go wait on the side, take out your phone, dip into it, lose your consciousness. Right? But taking a step back and just observing your breathing and feeling what you feel in your body at that point in time, and see how that feels for you. Easier said than done, but you'll probably feel discomfort at the start. You'll feel boredom. And it's like you might feel that feeling, right? But let me know how you go.
Well, I've done that before because I read the book Think Like a Monk, and one thing I'm realizing with a lot of what you're saying is be intentional with what you're doing, like a lot of things. And he talks about that, like to be intentional with things, like when you're brushing your teeth, like be intentional about brushing every tooth. And like when you do anything, like try to be intentional about it, like whether you're picking up your phone or like what you're saying, I'll ask why you're doing something, as opposed to letting your autopilot of your brain just to do it mindlessly everything. Like when I'm driving, like, because my radio's like gone now, so I drive in silence. So like I'm like driving without without that external so it's like, all right, now I've got to focus on this, and you're just like doing nothing but just driving. You don't have to listen to the music. It's just like, I'm just me right now. I'm just driving. And sometimes you try to think of like, what am I trying to think of? But it's like, why am I trying to think of this? Why can't I just focus on driving right now? And it's like when I was doing running, when I was going back to this running thing. So if you've heard me talk about this a lot, it's because it's been such an amazing experience for me. Like I went from progressively running with music to listening to podcasts to reading audiobooks, and then to running without any stimulation, just silence. And it was just like, I found myself just when I was running in silence, I was intentionally running about every step, every foot forward. That's what mattered.
Every inhale, every exhale.
Yeah. And you forget about, I started to realize I forgot about the pain, like in my knees, in my feet. And I was like, why is this like that? Why is it when I try to look for that external stimulation to help me through this, it felt a lot harder? But when I was just with myself, with my own thoughts, feeling and recognizing every bit of pain, that I was able to go about it better and like forget about it easier, So it was like, that intentionality is important in whatever you do. Why are you doing it?
So intention helps you connect. Then you just felt more connected with your mind, your body, and the experience that you were doing, which was running at that point in time, and driving as well. So at the moment, I'm driving in silence too.
Oh, really?
It's a choice. Right? It's a choice now. You don't have a choice, but you've seen the benefit in it. For me, it's like, all right, I don't need the music playing because I can use this opportunity as a meditation, to drop into my body and my breath. And I've decided to stop drinking and doing any substances as well. So look, it's only been a week since I've been out of the meditation, right? But it feels like I can keep this up for some time. Like just yesterday, I went to a party, all my mates were drinking and all that, and I bought non-alcoholic beers. It was a cool novelty to just drink and sip, but I feel, I don't really need this either, right? So life is going to change, because social life for some people is centered around drinking, and that's just a social lubricant that we all have been conditioned to saying, hey, that's okay. But I've always been saying this, alcohol is a poison for your body, but we do it anyway, and we feel shit the next day, but we're still doing it. We're borrowing life from tomorrow so that we can have fun today. And look, it's a personal choice for me at this point in time, but it's something I've been wanting to do for years now, but it's just given me maybe the confidence and the backing that, hey, I can do this. I can not drink and not do substances as well.
Yeah. Well, I've been there too. Like, the past couple of months, like, ever since being in a relationship, because of something happened, and then we had a conversation, and it's like, I haven't touched substance in a while as well. Like it's been over like a few months, probably the start of the year.
Sure.
And yeah, I used to have that feeling like, oh man, I want to do this again just to have that fun. But now I'm like, why do I need to do it? Like, we can still enjoy our lives without those social lubricants, without those external stimulations. Like even with Liz, like when I'm driving in silence, like we just talk, we have that interaction as opposed to listening to music and being like using that as the conversation starter. We're just enjoying each other's time, and just really being present, which is, how it's kind of hard, but when you have that feeling of what it's like to be present, it's like, wow, I don't need all these things. I don't need all the things that I want to have in life. Like I can just have these moments and I'll be happy, type of thing.
As a person that really loves music, when do you listen to music then? Because I know you love your music too.
I do. I still like to listen to music when I work. It helps me get through emails. Emails are boring, and music is an interesting one. For me, I want to shift more into consuming music, more into creating. But for me, I didn't really grow up with music, right? So it's, first of all, not finding the time. Everyone has time. Making the time to practice and to connect with the instruments more. And music's an interesting one. It's faded out since the last week. But normally you would have music on all the time. You walk into a shop, there's music. You walk into even a fish and chip shop, or you walk by a construction site, all the tradies are blaring their music, right? We're living in a period where there's just music is so easily accessible through Spotify and other means and radio that you just don't have the quiet time to yourself, which is what we need. Sometimes
The silence.
So true.
The silence is important, man.
Silence.
But silence is so hard, right? Sometimes in conversations, you always feel like I always feel like I have to, remove the silence, like by saying random words. But sometimes it's like unnecessary.
I'll take you boys to, it's a practice called kirtan.
Ooh, I've never heard of that.
Kirtan is also known as, don't quote me on this, bhakti yoga, which is devotional, right? So it's a practice where you'll have a leader that might be playing, say, a harmonium, which is like an accordion, or they might have some cymbals or guitars or little percussion instruments. And they'll sing mantras. It could be devoted to Hindu gods, or it could be devoted to the divine. The divine meaning what is inside of you, or whatever your definition of the divine is. And it's very uplifting, so that you feel just incredibly light by the end of it. It's call and response, so you don't have to know the lyrics or the words or the mantras. They'll lead, they'll say a line, and you just repeat it. Call and response, right? And by the end of it, it's just, you feel so high. And it's just through singing. Think of it as spiritual karaoke.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I'm keen.
That's similar for you. How do you feel when you're doing choir at church?
It's been a while.
It's
It's been a while, but yeah. Back then it was like,
sometimes
you singing with everyone else. And,
and sometimes you feel that emotion. You're feeling. It's a weird feeling that I can't really explain, but you just feel like this energy, just like I don't know, is it like letting go, or like letting someone just feed me? There's that feeling of God, I guess. Like I don't know, but sometimes when you're like, especially like Holy Supper or something like a very holy event, it was the hymn singing is different. Like you feel this. I don't know.
I guess because you can really feel the emotion coming from other people as well. And I guess the lyrics, and you all have this one kind of thought and mind at the time, and just like so
sometimes people are so filled with emotion they cry. I've cried like when you're doing something so holy. It's like this. Wow, you either cry with pain, or you cry with joy.
So exactly that. Exactly the same thing.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm down. Let us know, man. Let us know when you want to do that. I'm keen.
Let's do it. Usually there's a place in Collingwood, I think, and then they'll do like a vegan dinner afterwards. So
amazing.
You sing and connect, and then afterwards you connect over a meal as well. And there's people from all walks of life and all that. So
I'm really open to this experience, man. I'm open to new experiences. Whatever
same,
it may be.
man.
The silent meditation, I'm gonna think about that one, man. 10 days in silence. I'm gonna try 1 day or 1 hour in silence and just find meditation and see how it goes.
I was actually thinking, what would you recommend silent meditation, that 10-day silent meditation for people that have never really gotten into meditation before, or is there some sort of preparation that you should do or thing before you get in there? Because it can, like from hearing from you, it can get really, it's a lot of work for your mind. So if you're not prepared for that, I guess.
Yeah, great question. Great question. Yes, I think if you want to go into this and you've got zero experience in meditation, if you're determined, I think you can sit through it. It's a battle of the mind, right? Not quite a battle, but not quite a tug of war. You shouldn't be fighting your mind, but you should be working with your mind, right? It's a dance. You'll be dancing with your mind. And sometimes a dance is a give and take. Sometimes it might take away from the joy and give you pain, but sometimes it might give you so much pleasure as well. So a dance of the mind, think about it that way.
That's beautiful.
I would recommend learning some basics of meditation through observing your breath through the day-to-day. Apps are a very good way to give you an introductory feel into what meditation is, to give you a sense of, all right, finding your comfortable seat as well. I always recommend sitting and raising your hips above your knees, so sitting on a pillow or a bolster or any other or blankets or something like that as well. Just getting used to sitting, because if you're sitting for 10 hours a day and you've not done it before, it's going to be it's challenging. And for me, for a person who practices yoga and movement to open my body up, it was still hard for me to sit for 10 hours as well. At the start, first 4 days, I would be shifting my posture every 5-10 minutes, right? And you develop like pain in those 3 days. And I was like, how come I practice so much yoga and I can't sit still? What's going on? And I saw some people in a chair because they had injuries and all that. I'm like, maybe I should get a chair. But then I saw the vast majority of people sitting on the floor as well. I'm like, they must be in pain too. So I'm like, all right, I spoke to the teacher. You can speak to the assistant teacher there for like 5 minutes a day. It's optional, but you do get that inquiry into, all right, how do I do this? Am I understanding the technique correctly? And it's very helpful to speak for that little bit to learn and clarify instructions. And so on sitting, I think practice to sit, essentially. Practice to sit with your own thoughts and not judge them, and just put a timer on or a stopwatch and be kind to yourself and be curious with yourself and be compassionate on not letting yourself get frustrated, which it's easy to do. It's like, why is there always thoughts trying to enter my mind? But just accept that, hey, thoughts will enter, as it did for me at the start. Every 2 breaths, I was like thinking of something. Every 5 breaths, thinking of something. But then the period that you're able to be mindful just gets longer and longer and longer. And your ability to come back to the breath gets easier and easier and easier and then better as well. So meditation is mind training, and it's a muscle that you develop as well. So it's very accessible these days, and it's essentially free.
Yes.
Have you read the book Peak Mind by Ami Shija?
No.
It was pretty good. She's she's in neuroscience, and she practices meditation. And like she kind of breaks down like what's the ideal time for benefits, and she said that was like 12 minutes of meditation a day. And they like tested it with like military and stuff like that. And she says one thing about, like your mind thoughts coming in. She had a discussion with someone, or she asked like someone who did meditation for years and years, like decades. And she asked like, what was the longest time you like hold that mindfulness without a thought coming in? And he's like 30 seconds. And you expect like 2 minutes or like longer, but no, it's very short. That's why everyone thinks like meditation, like you're just empty, but no, like thoughts coming in.
No.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah. I think it's an interesting book that you might like.
Peak Mind.
Yeah, Peak Mind by Mishi Jha.
Mishi Jha.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Good book.
Yeah, I'll check it on my list for sure, because it sounds fascinating. And you're right, it's, even though I've done it for a couple of years, thoughts just enter every couple of breaths. I'm like, hang on a second. But you learn to be kind. You learn to just let go. And everybody tells me, oh, I would never be able to do that. My mind is so busy. I always get thoughts in. But maybe I should tell them, hey, for me, thoughts come, but I just have learnt to let it go and let it pass.
That was always my perception before, like I talked to you guys about it, and I was always thought your mind needs to be blank. I always thought that, like ever since I was like only recently, like I guess when we started doing all this stuff, like so yeah, it's really interesting to hear, like even for them, like 30 seconds is like, you know.
Yeah, that's long, like 30 seconds. And even if you listen to like any like YouTube meditation, they're like, let the thoughts come, whatever thoughts come, just like let it be there and just like observe it, you know, as opposed to like trying to be blank all the time. No, it's like, what is that thought? Like, you know, ask the questions that you want to, and then, you know, move on.
So sometimes I use a meditation app called Waking Up, and it's by Sam Harris.
Sounds familiar. No.
So with him, although you can pay a subscription, there is an ability to email and say, hey, I can't afford this right now. And they would give you an open account so that you can access all of the content for free. Wow. Right? He says that although there is work to develop the app and get the content together, if you need meditation and you can't access it, here you go, this will help. And that's the beauty of it, and that's the purity of this course that I did as well. And similar to what Sam Harris is doing, it's, although there is a commercial gain, look, we live in a capitalist society, right? To do anything, and the cost of living is always rising and rising and rising. But this place in Healesville is accepting donations only, and they accept donations if you stay for the duration of the course. So if you don't complete it and you decide to leave for whatever reason, then you don't have to pay, right? But at the end, there's a donation table. It's optional. So if you don't donate any money to the experience, then no one will be chasing you as well. And it's so that as many people can benefit from the practice as possible. So for me, it feels just so pure, so noble that people are doing this, and all the people who are working there, the teachers, the people who cook your food, who clean the property, who serve the food, and the managers there who help you with the day-to-day of it all, they're all volunteers. Right, it's completely volunteer run, and well, that's my perception of it and what I can see. Completely volunteer run and based on donations as well. So by the time you finish, it's like, all right, you want to give back, and it's out of the goodness of your own heart that you want to give back as well. And they feed you well, right? You're eating 2 delicious veggie meals a day, and on day 3 there was cake. And so like, and so like you feel your spirits just rise, and they've done this before, right? Because you can feel dips into how hard it is, and the cake disappears, but sometimes in the next few days there's more cake.
Wow, that's just having just that donation based type of thing, and like the volunteers and stuff like that is such a pure cause. It's amazing. Like I can't believe there's these people out there just wanting to help others and
out of the goodness of their
heart. That's amazing, man.
So this is why I wanted to share the experience with you both as well. I think it might not be now, it might not be tomorrow or next year, but if you're aware of Vipassana meditation, you might need a reset in your life. There could be a life event where you're finding it really hard to deal with, and you want to just maybe take some time off. You want to sit with yourself, your thoughts, and spend spend time on a beautiful property or and spend time in nature to connect with yourself. This practice is always here, right? So what they recommend for you to keep up the practice is to meditate twice a day, once in the morning, once in the night for an hour each, and then do this course once every year. That's the recommendation, right? But it's been very hard and challenging to maintain that. So I've kept the hour, and at night I might do a bit if I can. If not, then I'm not being too harsh on myself as well.
Amazing.
Wow, I'm just like, this episode just like feels so full of emotions, like such good energy, man. Like just looking at you, I just you exude that good energy, that positivity, man. Like I just feel so happy right now. Just for you to share this with us. Like wow.
Yeah.
It's something I definitely want to consider now and really get back into meditation, because it's something I haven't done in a while. And you know, that time for myself is important. Time for yourself is important.
But think about it, meditation is not just a formal sit, right? Meditation can be when you're designing your new logos or drawing.
Yeah.
That's absolutely a meditation. Or when you're cooking or washing the dishes, when you're mindful in your activity, maybe turn off the music so that you can get fully absorbed in the activity itself. For me, that's meditation, right? Running, cycling, walking, they can be meditation if you just, it's pretty rare, but people walking without music or without headphones in, given everybody's got little AirPods in now, it's harder to be mindful then, because society teaches you to cram things in, to read as many books, or if depends on the circles you run in, but people on the internet are a bit wanky when they're showing, hey, I read these 50 books in a week. Or I listen to 1 million podcasts and I listen to them on 2x the speed so I can consume as many as I can, right? Yeah. But what are they really absorbing at the same time? But when you spend time a bit slower, or you're approaching life a bit slower, you become more mindful and connected as well. So meditation is not just a formal sit, but it can be any activity that you do. It could be, I talk to my barber, I'm like, bro, you cutting hair looks like a meditation as well. And it's like, absolutely, the way you cut and create. I think creating art is a meditation in itself as well. And you know, two creatives sitting here, you can probably agree.
It is. It's when you're doing something you love, and in those times when you're creating something new, it feels beautiful once it starts to come together. Like with this design, like when it started to come together, we're like, wow, this feels amazing. And you lose track of time because you're just in that flow state, and you're just doing until something happens and you're like, this is it. You know, this is the one.
Exactly that.
Then wow, I'm blown away by this. Like, this is amazing. I love speaking to you, man. I love the conversations we have, and thank you for coming on and wanting to share this with everyone. I think this, just talking to you was so valuable. Like, it makes me want to like go back and look at my life as well and just take time. You know, is the things that I'm really doing every day, the things I really want to do. Like, how can I go back to being intentional about my life and the whys and going back to that. So thank you, Liem. Thank you, brother, so man. Thank you so much for this time, man.
A pleasure, absolute pleasure.
And is there anything else that you want to add on, talk about, or is there anything you want to plug that you're doing or share? Like, you know, anything?
I had some good news yesterday.
Oh yeah.
All right, so I've been offered a teaching position at Westside Yoga.
Yeah.
To start off with just a sub and to find my feet as a teacher, right? But for me, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Nice. Since I've started this journey and you've been along the journey with me as well. Hey, and
it's a pleasure, man.
And the owner of the studio, Jamal, I just said, hey, I've been thinking about you. I'm like, oh, that's nice. But she always comments on, and what you mentioned is my presence and the joy that I could bring. And I'm like, hey, well, you haven't seen me teach or anything like that. But she says, and has commented on the energy that I bring. And she says, I can see that what you do is you come as yourself. And so that allows other people to be themselves as well, and with no judgment. So
It's true.
I think in time, watch this space, but I'll be sharing some of the practices at Westside Yoga, which is an incredible studio, which I've been practicing at for many, many years. So if I just feel connected and aligned right now to be able to be offered this position as well. So super happy.
Congratulations, man.
We're so happy for you, bro. Like, that's amazing to hear.
The people over there will be very lucky to have you.
Yeah.
Thanks, bro.
So when would you start doing sessions? Or it's just substitute for now, right?
Yeah. I think that already is a big deal for me, right? There's so much other things going on that you want to balance, but for me, I've been wanting to share this for quite some time now, but there's a bit of imposter syndrome as well. Thinking back on the lineage of 5,000 years of yoga, and then seeing that there's this guy here called Liem, and who the hell is he to be able to share this? And so that's where the imposter syndrome comes as well. And I think when you try new things, it's always hard, but it's just, I read this somewhere as well. She would know better than others who is a good teacher or not, right? And who has the good energy and who is capable or not. If she sees that I can do it, and she can be the judge of that, then I should be confident in and stepping up to the plate. And hitting those home runs, because she's obviously trusted in me to approach me, right? And then I guess that's how you deal with imposter syndrome as well, just as a quick add-on to the conversation.
Exactly. No, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Wow.
When will we get to see, like, are you going to be posting on your socials when you?
For sure.
Yeah. So what was your socials that you wanted to tag?
Liem Nguyen.
Liem Nguyen.
Yeah, you just tag me and then
we'll just tag you and make sure to check him out, man. Give him a follow if you want to join him on those sessions that he ever does, and hopefully one day we'll see him on a regular basis, at a yoga studio.
Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome, guys. Like, I think that's a good way to end it.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Liem, for joining us and sharing your experiences in silent meditation and your journey with us, man. Like, absolutely amazing. And we hope you guys found value in this conversation. Make sure to give Liem a follow, and make sure to keep us a follow, because we'll be releasing a new launch in the coming weeks. And, as we always say, stay safe, always take care, and always get up. Peace.
Okay.